Welcome to Culture Couch Live. We've got two of the usual suspects, Carly and Mel, and a special CCL or welcome to a debutante, Alexandra. Good to see you from Canada. So welcome aboard.
Thank you so
Hi,
much.
Rosie. Hi, team.
Looking forward to the conversation. So one thing we sort of wrestled with, Carly, was really interesting, wasn't it? We just had a 2-day conference ourselves, and we wrestled with getting an external facilitator, which is pretty weird given we're external facilitators. But after the 2 days, we agreed getting someone else in, like we would never have had the outcomes that we had. And it's funny how we were sort of reluctant to take our own advice, but we did. And it was just an amazing couple of days. But you wanted to bring one thing up, which I found quite fascinating as well, and probably something that I've probably dropped off in a little bit. But do you want to maybe mention to the other guys, and let's throw that around as well.
Yeah, sure. So I absolutely agree with the external facilitator. And it was really interesting because we wrestled with all the same kind of parameters around it. You know, do we want to pay for it? Is it going to be worth it? What's the value we're going to get out of it? Will it take us to where we want to go? And yeah, it was absolutely worthwhile. And even afterwards, thinking about, you know, what would that 2 days have been like if we hadn't have had that facilitator, and what outcomes would we have got if we tried to do it on our own, you know, with, you know, not clouded judgment, but just not with that fresh perspective. Let
me add something before. So, Carly, I think you're right. I think the biggest thing for me was probably half the stuff we would never have spoken about. You know, it's a bit like that in our workshops, isn't it? Like, I would think most of our people would go, gee, we wouldn't have even touched on that stuff that Performance by Design did. And that was the real eye-opener for me. And we talk about it all the time, but we wouldn't have even touched on some of the stuff, would we?
Yeah. No, I don't think we would. And Mel, you know, even in sessions, you know how clients always sort of say, oh, you know, how do we compare to other teams? And do you do this with everyone else? And what problems do other teams have? It's just that kind of overview of the general issues and of where they need to go rather than where they think they need to go that I think is really helpful with that external lens.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's something that strikes me every time is that even when there isn't anything that is, you know, particularly mind-blowing about the content, the discussion itself with a facilitator and another lens can take things and shape them in different directions. Yeah. So it's one thing that always actually is quite a satisfying process, because teams say, well, we do get together, we do have the conversations, but then another dynamic with another person, another lens that isn't necessarily entrenched in the business always gives another spin. And I think that was the beauty of our experience as well. And it really lived what we do every day. We lived it as a team.
I think our conversation too, Carly, was, I remember saying to you, are we ready for that conversation? And yes, we were. We just needed to be pushed, didn't we? It was funny, like when I reflect on you and my conversation around, oh, you know, why would we get him in? You know, I don't think we're ready to have those conversations. He just pushed us and said, yes, you're ready. Have the conversations. And I guess because we're in the industry we are, we were happy to have the conversation, because that's not it was more the structure and when to have the conversations and what conversations to have, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I think it's really good point, Alexandra. I'll throw it over to you, but it's always when we're in workshops, and I know you do this with a lot of our Canadian clients, is the facilitator brings the accountability. Yeah. So yes, we can be in the room, and yes, we can all have the conversation, and you go, yeah, this is great, we're really enjoying it. But with the facilitator in the room at the end, you know, you and Emil are going, right, you're going to do this, and we're actually going to check on you, and we're going to make sure you do it. And I think that accountability piece is really important too, AP. Have you seen that in your workshops?
100%. And I do, you know, what I see is when we come in, we've seen it work, we've seen the process work, and we can sometimes be met with apprehension. And just to have that calm space where, you know, you're not attached to any of the outcomes, you don't know any of the history of what's gone on, and a person who's there and just really committed to your success, it creates a space for something that's really wonderful that you've experienced. And it's nice to be, you know, I feel like we are experts in this consulting field, but it's really nice to be given back that, because ultimately
all of us have a position, and it would have been really great to have that third party person to really provide that, calm and third party perspective, and maybe even to see things perhaps. So, when you're in the thick of things, you might not be able to see like the view of the entire situation, maybe your own point of view, or maybe 2 points of view, but someone who's never heard all of the stories and can just hear the fundamental synopsis of what's going on. That's what I experience when I go into a session. It's like I can hear a full sentence, and in 5 words I can summarize that. And of course there's agreement, we have to get agreement, but it's really amazing what an experienced consultant can do, or a facilitator, actually.
I think AP, what you're saying is right. There's no, like, he didn't have emotional attachment, Carly. Same as us when we go into a business. We don't know where they're making money. We care because we obviously want them to be successful, but there's no emotional attachment to their outcomes. And that was what struck me as well with the gentleman we had. He wasn't emotionally attached to us at all. It was like, and as you're saying, AP, it's like, we've seen the system work from a cultural point of view. He's seen the system work from a strategy point of view. So AP, you're right. It's like, we brush off the emotion and just get to, we'll do this. And that's a big part of it, isn't it?
Yeah. Because when you're stuck in the emotion, you can get stuck.
Yeah.
And so you sort of think, I know everyone, I have to please everyone, I've got to work out how to make sure everyone's happy. And you get stuck in that kind of vibe sometimes. And particularly when we're talking about culture and the people in your team, you say this all the time, Ruzi, that, you can get quite protective of the people in your team or your department. So when we get to an executive level workshop, we don't want any of that sort of alliance or baggage or, kind of emotional element to sort of get in the way of the fact that we're trying to drive performance. So if we're helping our clients to drive performance, what do they need to do to be high performing? And we can see that quite clearly in the workshops.
Yeah, 100%. And I think on that too, Mel, it's like we all potentially have certain connections to certain people. So if you've got 20 people in a workshop and you're running it yourself, you naturally feel like, when I pick a team at Melbourne or Sydney, you sort of like players because they suit the way you're going to play. So if you don't have a match committee in the room going, well, hang on, Ruzi, no, don't pick that player, pick someone else. We all sort of naturally have relationships. So that's a good point as well. It sort of levels everyone, including the CEO. It doesn't matter what your title is. And again, that was another thing. So we don't care what the title is. This is what we're going to bring to you as well.
Yeah, that's right. And that quote about titles don't matter, but the behaviours do. So even though somebody might have the title of a leader, the leadership behaviours are often, and we call them influencers, don't we, in our business? So the influencers within teams and businesses are actually, they hold a lot more power than people with the actual title. And just in terms of that point about our latest newsletter is all about, can you work with people you don't like? And it is something also to be mindful of. So within teams, yes, you gravitate to certain personalities for all the reasons we know, profiling and behavioural and all those other things, which is absolutely normal. But in terms of your responsibility to learning, there's something, I noted 3 words here, as I normally do with my pen in these Culture Council lives, but I've broken it into 3 different kind of categories, and one is capacity, the other one is ability, and the other one is willingness. And those 3 things need to exist to go on a learning journey. So if I think about our retreat, we knew that we needed another lens. We had the ability to do it and seek it, and then we had the willingness to make that change. And learning is an ongoing journey, and it's important to recognise those things. So to seek it out within your team, because learning happens everywhere.
Yeah, I think you're right, because on that, Mel, and I'm going to ask you, AP, because you're the most recent person that sort of wandered in to the workshops. There is that comfortability when it comes through the workshop that I don't think you get without the external facilitator, because suddenly everyone in the room realizes, well, hang on, there is no titles. We are now committed to doing something. I have a voice. Wow, this is actually pretty cool. So do you notice that when you're in with them, or when And is there a moment, when do you sort of see it? If there's is it sort of an hour, 2 hours, or what's your lens when I talk about that?
I think I really see that when the leader is actually up for real talk. Because usually feedback is especially here in Canada, it's top down, and it's not usually up, like down to up. And it's kind of like an environment where we're all equal, right? No matter what position we're in. And it's all about improving team dynamics in the end. Yeah. So I see it really in our real talk sessions, especially with there's a lot of apprehension here in Canada as well around real talk. So to really be that solid person who knows that and has seen it work in terms of improving workplace dynamic and psychological safety and all of it, it's really beautiful. And also, you know what, when leaders are really sharing your story and really vulnerable, it really sets the stage, and it sets an environment where no matter what, it could be a CEO, a VP, they are human beings. And at the end, at the end of the workday, they go home and they face adversity, they face challenges, and they've gone to where they are, not because it's maybe always has been easy for them, right? So when they are able to share so vulnerably, it actually eases the entire room, and then actually accelerates psychological safety there 100%. Onward.
100%. It's funny, Kelly. I love the first part of the real talk where everyone's squirming in their chairs. It's quite funny, isn't it? It's like, oh, okay. And to AP's point, the body language change, the energy change, once they get through the first couple, is extraordinary. Is it to the point where you can almost feel like, oh, it's like Christmas. Is there another present? Like, is there one more under the tree? It's like, we finished already. But the start of real talk, it's like, everyone's looking around. It is an amazing shift, isn't it, when they go through that process?
Yeah, but if you think about that from the external lens too, like if you didn't have an external facilitator in the room and the leader or one of the managers stood up and said, okay, everyone, we're going to give each other feedback now. They'd be like, what are you talking about? If we're not, if they're not used to it, it's not something that you would willingly agree to and just get going with. But it's because, one of us is standing there and we're saying, right, this is how we're going to do it. This is the guardrails. These are the reasons. This is, step A, B, and C, that people go, okay, well, you're the experts. You must know how to do it. So we'll let you guide us through it. But if we weren't there, that situation and, that squirming in the seat would be such a different environment. Because I think, AP, your point around safety, the expertise you bring into the room provides the safety to be able to do those exercises and feel comfortable in that environment. So, that different lens really, really gets highlighted in all those examples.
Yeah, can I add to that too, Carly? Sorry, Rizzy, So in terms of the real talk, the other piece is that the safety of doing it with an external lens is also the rules and the way that you approach it. So we would never just advocate, throw some real talk around a room. We create some frameworks, which is also the gift in learning how to give feedback and how to receive it. So it is a technique, and it is something, to AP's point, that you do need to become more comfortable with, but there's also things that can help you in that journey. Admittedly, without those things, it's a much more difficult thing to practice, to listen to.
I'll tell you a story about that, Mel. When we first started the business, I remember a guy rang me and said, look, what do you do? And I explained it. We got to the real talk. He said, we had a feedback session yesterday. I said, okay, what was the feedback based on? He goes, what do you mean? I said, well, what was the framework around the feedback? He goes, no, we just gave each other feedback. I said, how'd it go? He goes, not good. And I was like, to your point, I said to him, well, no wonder it didn't go well. And he was like, well, what do you mean? And then I explained to him what we did and what the system is, because you can't just go from 0 to 10 and go, we don't do feedback at all. And then suddenly we bring someone in and we just give everyone feedback. It's like, oh my God. It's just complete and utter chaos.
I totally agree with you. There was one situation where a leader had real talk and It was such an amazing experience. And the entire team was like, I want to do this with my team. And it speaks to I believe the facilitation skill, the facilitator story skill, because if you make it look that easy, and to the point where people are like, I want to do this and I'm going to take it home. And I think what a facilitator does, and I don't want to I'm not trying to brag about us, but I feel like we're really good at this real talk space. It's creating the safety and role modeling the entire exercise from start to finish and leaving the entire room empowered. It's a big skill, and eventually we get you to be at a point where you could do it on your own with your new teams, but it's a very delicate process, right? So like the facilitator that you received, right? Very delicate process. Would you have been able to accomplish what probably you wanted to? No, right? You said that earlier. But he made it look so easy, right? The gentleman, I've heard about him. Just it's sometimes, I think, a skill that people think is so easy, but it's actually quite difficult to have a team leave a session very empowered and has tools and knows what to do and has next steps and at least has some tools in their toolbox. But
I think the other thing, AP, on that, it's interesting because one of the other things I thought, Carly, Mel, as well, is you're not paying for that day. You're actually paying for all the years of experience that particular person has. So whilst there might be a daily fee, which we got charged, when I reflected on it, Carly, we're not paying that day. We're paying for all his experience, AP, to what you're saying. All that's what we're buying. And I think we forget that when we're selling to people, we're not actually just selling the day or the 3-month program and the 4-month program, the 12-month program. They're actually buying our expertise. That's what they're buying. And AP, let me say this as well. This is our Culture Couch Live, so we can brag as well.
Okay.
So that's the
I think I'm trying to be a Canadian, nice Canadian.
No, that's the beauty of having your own show, because you can brag sometimes, not all the time. But we can throw a little bit in there if we want to.
Yeah, but Rosie, on that though, in terms of what you're paying for, after you come out of the session, the new project or the actions or the way we want to be starts as soon as you walk out of the room.
Yeah.
So having this experience for us as external facilitators has been really good, because we all got back to our desk on Monday and we were like, right, action plan starts now. We're ready to go. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to work. So it's almost that, the day or the workshop that we do with everyone is ground zero, and then work starts as soon as you get out of it, and you need the support then to take you on that journey and get you to where you want to go. So I think experiencing that mindset is really important for us too, to be able to explain it.
Yeah, it was a great reminder, because not one of us said anything about the money we paid after the event had finished. We debated it before, but once it had finished, and I suspect that's exactly the same with our clients. It's like after the sessions are finished, that they don't even worry about what they spent because of the expertise and because of the experience they had. And then, wow, away they go. So again, I think it was a great lesson, Carly, and good way to finish off. So yeah, good topic, AP. Great debut from you. Well done, outstanding.
You
were
amazing.
We might have to get you on instead of M. M might have lost his spot.
I cannot replace M. He's unreplaceable.
No worries. No, it was awesome. Thanks, Mel. Thanks, AP. Thanks,
Thank
Carly.
you.
Very good. Rosie. And we'll see everyone next week on the Culture Couch Live. Thank you very much.